I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that there is a transition, right? So, I talked earlier about habits, and habits have a really powerful impact on how we show up and what we do. I genuinely believe that we become our habits eventually.
Let's transition now to what you specialize in, Alena. So you talk about helping organizations to transform people from manager to leader. What, in your view, is the difference between a manager and a leader?
I would say when it comes to managers, it's managing the process. It's more of results based on this is what needs to be achieved. This is how we get there. So it's more process oriented. And just like what you said earlier with mentorship and therapy, there every leader needs to be a manager. There has to be a manager, right? We have to manage the process. But I think leader is an extra layer to that. The leadership is around strategically getting results through people in the best way possible. Right, so it's around leveraging strengths. It's around unlocking fuller potential of your people. Because when a leader creates an environment that allows people to be motivated, not afraid to fail, right? So innovate. And when people are excited to come to work, so their energy is high up, and there is high performing team, the results of the whole team go up. But it requires certain skills. It requires self-awareness. It requires developing specific tools and processes around that, right? Habits, leadership habits.
You also speak a lot about the transition from someone being an individual contributor to being in their first leadership role. Why do you think that transition is so tricky?
This transition is so critical, and I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that there is a transition, right? So, I talked earlier about habits, and habits have a really powerful impact on how we show up and what we do. I genuinely believe that we become our habits eventually, right? So when we talk about individual contributors who are transitioning into leadership roles, they bring with them all the habits that they have accumulated through years of being usually very high performing individual. So that means, they're typically someone who is really have high motivation. So then when you have somebody like this in a leadership role, well, they need understanding of how to motivate people who may not be as highly motivated as them, right? So it's understanding that there are other ways to that there are extra tools that they need to have. And also, I think the focus of high performer is on individual performers. So we're responsible for our own performance. So we, in full control of this, we're saying, okay, this is what we need to get. This is how we get there. When you transition to the leadership role, all of this switches. You're no longer the star player. You should not be the star player. You're moving into a supporting role. You mentioned that you need to take care of your people. So that it's a different lens, and it's not just an additional responsibility, which often happens, unfortunately, when there's no well thought out transition that happens. Usually leadership becomes an additional task. I do all this stuff. It's kind of continuing my process, and now the 10% of my time I'm gonna manage the team. Whereas leadership, really, this transition is about completely switching this lens of how you see yourself, how you see your team, how you see yourself. Because now, as a leader, your actions, your words, it becomes a teaching mechanism, right? So when you are in a leadership position and you say one thing but you do another, you're actually creating confusion for your team. Yeah, confusion. People don't know, do I do what you say, or do I do how you do it? So you have to embody, what you want to teach to other people.
What I'm taking away from what you're saying is that one of the keys is that the things that made them successful and get them to where they are today are not the same things that will make them successful as a leader. And that can be a difficult mental transition for someone to go, all right, I'm the star player. Now, no, I am the nurturer and I'm looking to draw other star players out. That can be a tricky thing.